March on, brave Dowie! March on!
Howdy, howdy. Sudevil here, and welcome to a game featuring the Dwarfs versus the Dark Elves, featuring my coach, Oroka Boss. If you haven't seen our coaching sessions, Dwarf Training 1, 2, 3, and 4, two are on my channel, two are on Oroka Boss's channel. Go and check out his channel. I'll put a link in the description. And this is a game I want to go over because Oroka Boss is actually playing the Dark Elves versus the Dowie. This build that Oroka Boss has brought here is the build that keeps me up at night. This is one of the reasons that I think the Dark Elves are the hardest opponent for the Dowie. And this is Oroka Boss, one of the best players to ever play this game, playing a build that's refined to the teeth perfectly. So I think it'll be an interesting game for everyone to look, and I will be looking for your feedback. Now, sort of the hardest builds that I've ever come across, one of the hardest builds I ever came across for the Dark Elves is not a chariot build. It was 6 Harganeth Executioners and 6 Harpies with Marathi on foot. And this is why, I mean, if you ever watched my Dark Elf builds, this is what I'm building for. Because it absolutely crushed me, and I don't know how to beat it. And this is Oroka Boss's version. Well, this is probably, might be, like, that's a blunt force build. This is an incredibly refined build with the same idea. So I'm actually going to go over Oroka Boss's build first. Now, for his build, he has 4 Harganeth Executioners. His hard hitters are just behind a cheap chaff Bleak Sword. Silver Shield, that Bleak Sword's just up front to take any shots if cannons are on fire at will, and that's that. To his sides, he's got 2 Black Ark Corsairs. These are the anti-infantry type, and if you've watched Oroka Boss play, if you've watched him coach me, he loves flanking, he loves surrounding, and this is him at his best. So these Black Ark Corsairs are not for the front line. They're for artillery, they're for backline, they're for quarrelers, and he's got 2 on this side. For his backline harass, he's got 4 units of Harpies. 2 on this side, 2 on this side to come in from the rear to get into that backline, and he has got Malekith on a chariot. Now, chariots are great against the Dowie, and Malekith on his chariot is arguably better than Marathi, but he's just more expensive. And Malekith, for his spells, he has Soul Stealer, Power of Darkness, the Spiteful Conjuration for minus 15 armor, and that's it. And he has 20% physical resistance, and he does cause fear. Now, for the Dowie army, this is nothing wrong with this build. It does have, I think, 3 Longbeards, 1, 2, 3, and 2 Dwarf Warriors in the front. For his leadership, he has 2 Runesmiths with just the Rune of Wrath and Rune. Very strong there. He does have Grombrindle, and Grombrindle, really what that Grombrindle has is an anti-chariot kit. With the Rune Axe of Grombrindle, 40% armor, piercing damage, and discouraged, minus 16 leadership. He has that Flash Bomb, Foe Seeker to catch the chariot, and Grombrindle has no fear. For the second line of defense, he has Thunders, which are very good in this matchup. He also has 2 groups of Hammers to help punch that front line and actually go toe-to-toe with Harganeth Executioners, and he has 2 Cannons, and finally a group of Slayers. So this is nothing. There is nothing wrong, quote-unquote, with this build. Build's fine. But you're going to see Oroka Boss at his very best, playing a build that he has refined to be better than the blunt force builds you see on ladder. Like ladder, you see a lot of blunt force builds, a lot of the blood force build, 6 Harganeth Executioners, 6 Harpies, and Marathi. That's a blunt force build. This is a very focused build with some refinements, like the Bleak Swords. They just took 2 cannon shots. You know, he's just got them out front, and when he's in range of the Thunders, he's going to 2 shots by them too. He's got, these guys are going to come around to the sides. These guys are just going to come up and engage in the front like that. These guys are going to come around the sides, and these Harpies are already going to come in and slow down the Thunders and the Cannons, which can do the most damage to the Harganeth Executioners and Malekith. And like you can just see the way he does this, I mean, this is how you, if you want to play your very best, folks, pay attention right here. You know, Dowie, this is why he tells me to really push the pace, because this is what he does to me when he's training. Is he says don't. So he's got the Rune of Wrath and Rune on the Harpies, which is the right place to put them, and is doing a ton of damage. The Harpies are coming into the cannons. They're coming into the Thunders. You can see Malekith is going to come in and get into these Longbeards. You can see he's got these guys over here, and he's going to get these guys around. These guys over here, these guys around, and he wants to get into the back. His front line is still coming, but now they're not getting any more pressure. These Harpies are doing their job. Malekith is actually getting some damage. You're going to see, as soon as he clears this front line, he's going to give the order for these guys to go and attack. You're going to watch. I don't know if he's giving the order. There it goes. He's cleared the front line. Now he's giving the order for these guys to attack. The Harpies are getting a bit beat up, but these Blackguard Corsairs are going to crush the Slayers. Malekith is coming in and getting some damage done. The Harpies have slowed everything down. You can see how he's got these guys. These guys are coming to the very back. Very patient play. He's going to bring them to the very back so he can get them going. Still, now the Harganeth Executioner are getting ready to come into that front line. These Bleak Swords are coming to the front line. They're not going to do great, but they don't need to. Malekith is kind of running into that back line, mucking everything up. And now here comes a massive Soul Stealer to give him some heals as he gets to that front line. You can see the Slayers are getting... this is not the matchup the Slayers want. And now he's got these Blackguard Corsairs around, and they're going to come in. They're going to hit the cannons in the back, thunders in the back. And you can see now the Murderous Prowess has hit. You know, it's almost like he clicked it as a button, but obviously didn't. And you can see here come the Harpies. They are routing, but you're going to watch the timing on the routing. They're going to rout, and they're going to come back. They're going to rout. They're going to come back just in time to chase off the Thunders. The Thunders are now going. These Harpies are going. You can see the Blackguard Corsairs are doing the job. These guys are crushing the Slayers. These Harganeth Executioners are demolishing the Longbeards. They've already demolished the Dwarf Warriors here and here. These Longbeards are getting ready to go. And now everything can just start pushing in like this right to that center. We've got things shattering like the cannon. And these Harpies are going to come, and now they can just chase off the Thunders. So the Harpies have done their job mucking everything up. The Harganeth Executioner have gotten through with almost all their health, and the Blackguard Corsairs are not the greatest in this matchup, but they didn't have to fight things they were going to have a hard time fighting. They crushed the Slayers. There's the Slayers gone, and now you're going to see he's just going to bring everything into this middle. What are these Harpies doing? Yep, they're going to get after these Thunders. These Harpies are going to get after these Thunders. You know, they're beat up, but they have plenty to chase everything off that he wants. And he's just going to bring now everything to that front, and it's done. That's it. That's the game. Just absolutely crushing. And, this is the build that, like I say, against the Dark Elves, that this is it's funny, the build that with the 6 Harganeth Executioners and 6 Harpies is sort of like a brute force build. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's like moonshine or something, where this build of Oroka bosses is like a 40-year-old Scotch or something. It's just like it's refined, and it has a lot of thought to it, and it maximizes. These 4 Harganeth Executioners are going to be enough. These Blackguard Corsairs are going to get into the back. The Bleak Swords are going to take some damage. The Harpies are going to do what the Harpies do. And Malekith is going to be really, really strong into that Dowie front line. Nothing wrong with this build. Nothing wrong with the build. Admittedly, it was played statically, and that's why in our coaching sessions, if you watch them, Oroka Boss does talk to me a lot about trying to have a goal in mind and then push the pace to achieve that goal, not to just be static. And he'll say that the Dowie don't have to be static. Like, he's very insistent on that when he talks about how to play the Dowie in our training sessions. And if you watch his channel, you'll see the way he plays and thinks about his own games. But this is he barely lost a third of his troops, and absolutely demolished this build. This solid Dowie build. 2 Runesmiths, Grombrindle. Grombrindle's good here. there's nothing wrong with Gromber. It'll try and slow things down. Now, was the build played perfectly? Well, no, that's not the point. The point is that it was played statically, which shows exactly how you imagine it going. So as a dwarf player, it's important to see these games because you can see, and I'm sure, I mean, I know I've been crushed like this before. This is, when I watched this crush by Oroka boss, I've been crushed like that before. That's why I do try to be a little bit more aggressive, but I'm blindly aggressive. I just click units on units. I want to get attacking. But I've been crushed like this before, and if you play the Dwarfs and you play static builds, you probably come across really great players who've done this before. This game just shows it perfectly. That's why I really, really like this game, because it shows really the way to play against a static build, first of all, and the way not to play. Like, if you're going to play statically, have a goal in mind. Stay focused. Do your best. And it's not, it's not like the Dowie player didn't do anything. I mean, he tried to do something, but, this is really, really hard to actually make this work. Now, how do you play this? I don't know. So my build is actually quite a bit different because it's these harpies that I really, really worry about, and the Harganeth Executioners. But I would actually love to hear from you guys. Like, when I look at this game encapsulates what makes, I think, the Dark Elves a really tough matchup for the Dowie. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to beat this build with even up play. I mean, if two evenly matched players, like, how do you beat this? I mean, I don't even know. I know I build to try and beat this. This is the reason I have two iron drakes with just the flamethrowers, because they can chew through harpies fast, and harpies have low leadership, and the point is to use your runes of wrath and runes on the harpies if there's 4 harpies, and to use the iron drakes to try and get rid of those harpies fast, and then try to deal with the Harganeth Executioners in the front line afterwards. To also got blasting charges, a few blasting charges to try and deal with those harpies, and bolt throwers to try and deal with the harpies. Really, it's all about, and in this game, it's all about dealing with the harpies first, getting rid of them all, and eliminating them, so you at least have a chance of letting your backline work, then trying to deal with that front line. And so that's what my build is all about, is trying to actually deal with the harpies fast, and having dual purpose units that can deal with the Harganeth Executioners too as well. So anyways, I would love to hear from you guys. I actually really love this game because it is so crystal clear how these builds played out, and it demonstrates, I think, a weakness in a lot of Dowie players, and myself included. This is my weakness, is being too static. You don't have to be precisely static. I mean, when you have artillery, I mean, it's not like you can move around the whole field and you have the slowest faction, but hopefully you've seen some of the builds I've tried to present where you as a dwarf player can be a little bit more dynamic in your play, and you can foresee engagements a little bit. Though it is, I mean, when you see sort of the best in the world playing, a refined build like this, it looks pretty bleak. To be perfectly honest, it looks like you could never actually beat it. Though I would say that is not the case. It's possible to play better, and I would actually love to hear from you guys in the comments. Have you ever come across a 6 Harganeth Executioner, 6 Harpies build? I know that's the build that worries me for the Dark Elves, though this is a much more refined build and incredibly well played. What do you think? Have you, as a Dowie, sort of played against this constrictive type of really all-encompassing type of surrounding opponent, where they really just surround you and come in it all at once? And what tools have you tried to use to stop that? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. I think this build is something to point to as the weakness of the Dowie, and something that is really, really hard to defeat in terms of the Dark Elves. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and I'm so happy that Oroka Boss let me cast this game. I know he casts games on his own channel too, But it's rare that you get such a perfect example to watch and to witness and to see. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I would love to hear from you down in the comments. With that said, I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.